things. And they're having a good time, and they're full, and their bellies are full. And back then, it was a privilege to eat like that. Nobody would eat like that. A normal meal back then was maybe a piece of bread, maybe something very, very small. And they had a feast. And they were happy. And the king was happy. And Haman was happy. And Esther was there. And the king says, Esther, what is your wish? What is another thing that I can do for you? And Esther says, King, I want to have another feast. Come back tomorrow night. I want to have another feast for you and Haman. So he says, okay. And Haman and the king leave the ballroom happy. They leave the room that they were in happy and joyful. And as Haman is leaving the kingdom, as he's leaving the palace, he sees Mordecai. And he was instantly frustrated. He was mad. He was livid because he was reminded that Mordecai didn't bow down to him. He was reminded that this guy made me mad. He made me look like a fool. So Haman was mad and he was frustrated. And he got the king's servants and officials and said, tomorrow we are going to hang Mordecai. We are going to hang him. And not only that, build this place over here by the kingdom on the side, and that's where we're going to hang him. So these servants were working all night to build this place to hang Mordecai. That same night, after the first feast, the king couldn't sleep. He just couldn't sleep. He was up all night, and he calls his servants, bring me the book of good deeds. Back then, they would put all the good deeds that happened in this book, okay? And he's flipping through the book of good deeds, good things that people have done so that they can keep track of it. And he comes across this guy named Mordecai, Esther's stepfather. He comes across Mordecai's name. And he sees that Mordecai did something good. Mordecai prevented an assassination against the king. There was somebody in the kingdom who snuck in, who was trying to kill them, and Mordecai saw them and ratted them out and be like, this guy's trying to kill the king. And the king asks his servants, oh yeah, we remember that. That was a while ago. And the king said, did we do anything for him? Did we do anything, something to like a party or something, or even like a thank you card? And the servant said, no, we actually didn't honor him at all. And the king said, very well, tomorrow we are going to honor him. Okay, so they wake up the next morning, and Haman's storming in. He wants to go to the king. He wants to tell him, hey, we have to hang this guy Mordecai. But before Haman could even say that, the king says this. He says, Haman, grab this golden robe. You are going to put this on Mordecai. I know, right? I would have been so mad if that happened. So the king says, hey, put this robe on Mordecai. And Haman's like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I want to kill this guy, and you want to honor him at this time? This is the worst possible time for this to happen. But Haman couldn't say anything. Haman grabs the robe, and he puts it on Mordecai, and they have a time to honor him. And Haman doesn't have time to deal with this frustration because they had to go to feast the next morning. They had a brunch to go to, right? Or like a little meal in the afternoon. So he goes to Esther's second feast, okay? And they're eating, they're drinking, and Haman forgets about it for a minute. He takes a little break, and they're having a good time once again, just like the day before, the night before. And the king says to Esther, Esther, what is your wish? And Esther says this, King, I have gained favor in your eyes. King, that you trust me and I trust you. But there is someone out there who wants to annihilate my nation, and who, more importantly, wants to annihilate me. They want to kill me. And the king says, who is this person? Who wants to kill who wants to kill the nation that you are a part of? And she points to Haman. She said, it was Haman who wants to kill me and my nation and my people. In that moment, Haman's plan was discovered. His evil plot to kill the Jewish nation, to kill Mordecai and Esther's stepfather, was discovered. Haman instantly sat back in his seat and shriveled up. And he was like, oh my gosh, my plan is revealed. He felt like this little man He was this big guy, big tough guy, big guy with a huge ego, huge cocky guy. And as soon as that plan was discovered, he just shrunk down. And he was like, oh boy, I'm not so big anymore. And the king was furious, absolutely furious that Haman wanted to kill this nation, because this was Esther's nation. The king delighted in Esther. He loved Esther. He was in love with Esther. And he said, how could you do that to my beloved Esther's nation? Esther was adopted into the Jewish nation, so therefore it was hers. And Haman wanted to take that away from her. And the king was mad. And he said, you know what? Haman, we're going to kill you. We're going to hang you. And not only that, we're going to send you to the same place where you wanted to hang Mordecai, and you're going to be hung there. Isn't that crazy how everything just reversed? So back then, there was this thing called a decree. And before this all happened, Haman already issued the decree to kill the Jewish nation. So Esther goes to King Xerxes. He's like, King, can you reverse the decree? Is there anything that you can do? And in that time, there were rules and regulations, and he couldn't reverse it. He's like, Esther, there's nothing I can do. I can't take away this decree. I cannot reverse this. And Esther was like, oh no. But the king said this. He said, you know what? I can issue a new decree. He comes up with a new idea. He said, instead of trying to reverse the troops going out to kill the Jewish nation, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give the Jews a warning. I'm going to tell them to strap up and to be ready for these enemies to come, so that they would have the weapons, the tools, the mindset, everything that they would need to defend the troops that Haman sent out. And Esther said, okay. And Mordecai led his people. They prayed, they fasted. And the king gave them the weapons they needed. The king gave them everything they needed to defeat the troops that Haman sent out. And the Jewish nation was victorious. And what I want us to understand today is that God showed up in Esther's story, that this was God's plan to save the Jewish nation. This wasn't Esther's plan, this was God's plan, and God just happened to use Esther. And God will give us wisdom in times of danger. Esther was she was in danger, right? She was just in this mess. And God gave her wisdom and discernment to do exactly what she needed to do so that he could work in that. You know, Esther had these obstacles that she had to go through, you know, but she trusted in God so that she could do something heroic. That this was a big thing. Esther wasn't even supposed to be in his presence for 30 days, and she said, forget that. I need to show up. I need to do something heroic because God's calling on me to do something. And she did because of her willingness. Remember, we talked about this last week. She was willing to put herself into danger so that God could show up and give her the wisdom that she needs. And I think for us, when we read the story, when I read the story, I look at my situation. I look at our situation. And I think a lot of times we're in these dangerous situations. That sometimes we get into these situations and we don't know what to do. We try and figure life out on our own and we just can't do it. We can't. God tells us that we can't. If Esther were to try and figure this out on her own, she wouldn't have succeeded. Esther didn't need to save the Jewish nation. She was content being queen. She had a choice to help the Jewish nation, to allow them to live, or to kill them. And neither one would have affected her. But she was willing to do something that was honoring to God. She was reminded of her faith. She was reminded of what really mattered in life. And in times we get into these situations and we think, I have to figure this out on my own. I'm in this mess. I can't trust God. I can't trust my friends. I need to take care of it right now, right here. Right? We've all been there. I've been there. I'm still there almost every day. I struggle with this. It's like, am I going to depend on God's power and his Holy Spirit? Am I going to try and figure this out on my own? When I was in junior high, I was just a total punk. all right? I was this kid who was the troublemaker, always in the principal's office. I never was really good at school. School was never really my thing. And I was the kid, doing spitballs and paper airplanes, sitting in the back and throwing things at my neighbor and, getting my pocket knife and doing things in the desks, carving things out, carving other people's names so that they thought it was that person who did it. And that was me, okay? I was that kid. I was just the punk, all right? And every week in class, we had these things, which you guys probably do have. We have spelling tests. How many of you guys have spelling tests every week? Your homeschool. Okay, so in 7th grade, we had these spelling tests every week in English class, and I hated these spelling tests, absolutely hated them. And they would be on Fridays. Every Friday, that would be our day for spelling tests. And all week long, I would just dread Fridays because I'm like, oh gosh, a spelling test, I'm gonna fail. And I was kind of a lazy kid when it came to academics, and I thought that it was a good idea to cheat on my spelling tests. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna cheat on my spelling test. So what I would do is I'd put my spelling list right here in my sleeve, and I'd move it up and down like this. And when my teacher wasn't looking, I'd pull it down, look at the list, and then I'd write it down. So I did this for a little while, and eventually I got caught, all right? So my teacher's name was Mrs. Coletti. And Mrs. Coletti saw this, and she's like, Carlo, come to my desk right now. So she brings me to the back. I'm like, oh boy, I'm in trouble. And somehow I managed at this time to get the spelling list and to stick it in my underwear. I don't know how I did it. Her back was turned. I just grabbed it and I just stuck it in my pants. I don't know how that even happened, but it did. So I stuck this spelling list in my underwear. It was like not even in my pants. It was in my underwear because I was just desperate. I was like, I just need to get this in somewhere. And I get it in my underwear. And Mrs. Coletti asked me, Carlo, where is the spelling list? And I'm like, I don't know. Okay. And she's like, are you cheating on your spelling test? And I was like, oh boy. Oh boy. And in that moment, I had a choice. I had a choice to tell the truth and do something honoring to God, or to lie and get myself out of the situation. And I think in life, we have choices. We have a choice to do it on our own, or we have a choice to do it with God. If I were to tell her the truth, which I didn't, I lied. I told her, I don't know what you're talking about. I lied. And I suffered some consequences because she was like, I know that you're lying, and the penalty is going to be even worse. Okay, there was tension, parents got called. It's just a mess, all right? You don't want to even know the details. Or I could have told the truth, and I could have done something that was honoring to God. I got myself into this dangerous situation. I got myself into this mess, and I should have honored God by telling her the truth. Yeah, I want to confess I messed up. And we get ourselves so many times in life into these messy and dangerous situations that we cause on our own, and we feel like we need to figure this out. But I want to encourage us to make God-honoring decisions. Do something, be willing to be used by God. When we're in these dangerous situations, God will give us wisdom if we're following Him, if we have a relationship with Him, if we proclaim that He is God over our lives and we love Him, then we should be making decisions for Him. And in that moment, I didn't make a decision to Mrs. Coletti. I was a punk kid, and I needed to figure it out on my own because I got myself in a mess. And I didn't. I messed up. And when I look at Esther's story, she was willing to say yes and to be willing to be used by God. And she had a choice. She didn't have to. She could have said no to Mordecai, but she knew that that wouldn't be God honoring to the Jewish nation. That wouldn't be honoring to God. The only people that believed in God at the time were the Jewish nation. That's why it was so important, because their faith would have been gone. Christianity would have been gone. There would be no Jesus if it wasn't for this time. That's how important this was. That the prophecies wouldn't be true about Jesus Christ. That Jesus was supposed to be born a Jew. There would be no Jews. Every Jew would be dead. That's why this is important. And Esther said, yes, God, I want to do something honoring to you. Not to myself, because the easy thing is to lie and to say no or whatever and neglect God. But she said yes. And for some of us, we have this danger that we're facing each and every day. We have this danger of maybe some of us are in danger in school, that school isn't a safe place for us. Maybe we go to school and we struggle, and we don't know why. We just hang out maybe with the wrong kids. Maybe we cheat on some of our tests and homework assignments. Maybe some of us lie to our friends just so we can fit in. Some of us are in dangerous situations even with our boyfriends and girlfriends. Some of us are in dangerous situations at home with our parents. And all of us get into these dangerous situations. But what I want to encourage you guys today is when you're pursuing God, when you're going after God, when you're willing, God will give you the wisdom and the discernment to make the right decisions. And I wrote this down. I said, if we can seek God with all of our hearts, soul, mind, and strength, then God will give us the wisdom to do something heroic like he used Esther. Okay, I'm going to repeat that one more time. If we can seek God with all of our hearts, souls, mind, and strength, then God will give us wisdom to do heroic things like Esther did. Seek God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, mind, and strength. And he will give you that wisdom. He will give you that discernment. And if you don't, then we're going to have to feel this pressure of figuring it out on our own, because we are going to be lonely. We're going to be alone. And when we don't have a relationship with Jesus, then it's really hard to do life. Trust me, I wasn't a Christian for most of my life. And it was really, really hard. But today we have this choice of being in this relationship with Jesus, and he gives us guidance and assurance and peace in all of this. And if you're someone who doesn't believe in Jesus, I want to invite you to take a risk, take a leap of faith, and try it. Just try it and tell me if you're done trying it that it wasn't worth it, because I'll tell you something, it is worth it. This relationship with Jesus is important, and it's worth it. And I want you to experience that, because I believe that this is the way that you're supposed to live life. This is the way that life was designed to be lived by. And I want us today to walk away with, when we're in times of danger, God will give us wisdom when we're pursuing him. And I want us to pursue him. I want us to be a group of people that pursue Jesus with everything that we have. Okay, so with that, I'm going to pray. Dear God, I thank you for this time, God. Thank you for speaking through me, Lord. God, that sometimes we struggle and that we are in these dangerous situations. And God, I pray that you would bring us out of it by giving us the wisdom and discernment to do what is right. God, I pray that you would give us the spark and the fire to pursue you with everything that we have. God, I pray that even for myself too. Lord, because I know that sometimes I get tired and I get burned out and I don't have time. And Lord, I'm running around doing a million things. And God, I pray that you would help me to find time and just the passion to pursue you with all of my heart. And I know that that's the same for some of us in this room. God, I pray that you would be with us this week. Be with us in these dangerous moments that we're in. And God, we thank you for this story of Esther, that we see your hand over her this whole time in this story. And God, we pray that your same hand would be over us this week. In your name we pray. Amen. Well, hey, thanks, guys. So glad that you guys came out this Sunday. Hey, if you're in junior high or high school, we'd love to have you in the middle of the week. And we have winter camp signups. And please grab a calendar that Jeff wrote Sharpie all over. And yes, you guys have a great Sunday. Go watch some football and relax.